Honestly, hang on. It's down there. Is that just the pit in the Garden of Banban? Was the Garden of Banban eventually built on this spot? Maybe after the place got nuked, the Garden of Banban was built on this spot. Greetings, fellow mortals. This is Treasure Code from the Parable Project, and welcome back to the Stanley Parable. And I'm starting to have a bit of a harder time looking for new routes, unless, of course, we just do everything but with the bucket, which could be interesting. I might just have to make a list of all the other routes and just do everything with the bucket. But I did notice. Ah!
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No.
Ever.
This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever.
I'm a little scared now.
I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Oh. Excellent. Okay, I'm literally having to look at a list of different things to do because I've been running out of stuff to do. Okay, apparently there's some other phone that can ring, and apparently there's also...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Yes, narrator.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay. Waiting input. There we go. Input received. Apparently on the next run through I have to do that again. And apparently there's some other phone that can ring. But I figure while we're going through these routes...
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Let's try the nuclear ending with the bucket. Let's give that a go.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
You know, I feel that the narrator sounds calmer too whenever I pick up the bucket. He just sounds so much more chill. Oh! I forgot about this. Oh, the projector snapped and I thought someone was in here for a moment. Okay, hang on. Let's see. Kind of weird spinning figurines. I need wife floating. There will be a reward for finding them all. I'm pretty sure the narrator said there won't be. But then, like, he's the one who put them in here. Someone's building a... I saw one in the cargo room and someone's building a bridge. That's a good note to make. Hang on. Warehouse access. One plank. Construct bridge. Retrieve Chris's remains. Construct new structurally sound bridge. Okay. Large room, lots of boxes. Sounds like the cargo area. Stairs, something to do with stairs. I'm pretty sure it's the stairs under. Or it's the stairs where you can go down instead of going up. Looks like 427, ha. Yeah. Some are both red and blue, so the doors. There must be a point to this. Yeah, I'm thinking that the other one is done. I could also do the broom closet, but right now I'm focusing on the nuclear.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Actually, hang on. I can do two things at once. I can collect a figurine.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figley's. What do you think,
Figley?
Stanley?
I like
What
his
name
stammer.
better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Stanley. Okay. Ah, there is a door. I was wondering. I still kind of want to do the nuclear ending. I want to see if the bucket has any effect on it. Because like last time, like with we tried to get the freedom ending, but the building wouldn't release the bucket.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Oh, I'm gonna try this. I think you get like an achievement or something. I don't know if I got an achievement then.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Why do you say that? I just want to make a character with a really weird, like, emotional comfort object that they carry everywhere. That'd be fun. I enjoy coming up with weird quirks for characters.
The elevator raced downward,
I just want to put them all
plummeting towards an unknown fate.
And apply each one to
It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right.
Yes, we are
The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
I find comfort in this lovely little bobbing animation. It's very nice.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Yes. Okay. How quickly can we get through this?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
E works? I pressed E instead of clicking. Crack James. Let me try it again. Yeah, E works.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock.
What? No.
Everyone in the office was being
Get away
videotaped,
from the edges. These
monitored
are terrible
like guinea
guardrails.
pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly
What
burst
kind of
into tears
guardrails
as
are
Stanley
these,
cradled
people?
it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
These won't keep anyone or anything from falling into the abyss. Honestly, hang on. It's down there. Is that just the pit in the Garden of Banban? Was the Garden of Banban eventually built on this spot? Maybe after the place got nuked, the Garden of Banban was built on this spot.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Now I want to make an actual
he
sentient
screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one,
not even the
except
narrator,
for the bucket.
It's okay. I just want.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation.
I just want to see how the
Controls
narrator
labeled with
reacts to
emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place.
I feel like his voice is
And
more
as the
emotional.
cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world.
Or scheming
But at the
against
last
it.
second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror.
Wait, the
Had
bucket...
this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself?
I thought we were going to betray the Earth together.
How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
What?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
We got a second ending that ends on Stanley was happy. That's excellent. Okay. We gotta find the next computer with input on it.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, so it's gonna show up on a... Yeah. Okay, what are we gonna do this time, ladies and gentlemen? I'm determined to get whatever the input received thing is, so let me look at this thing. Let's take the bucket and let's go look at the red and blue doors. Because I know there's a Stanley ring.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket.
And there should be
around.
one in the cargo bay as well.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
No.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
How am I supposed to get over there, though? I need to get the cargo lift to go somewhere other than this. I need to somehow jump from the cargo lift, probably onto that bridge to get the Stanley ring.
Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Oh.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
So there's a vent somewhere that I can get into. Okay, duly noted. Look for vent access. I'm curious he didn't react to the fact that I jumped off the cargo lift. Danger everywhere.
No, stop! Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket?
This is a bucket.
And what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness. I think we have to do something about it.
His name
this
is Bucket. That doesn't mean he
misunderstanding
is a
could
bucket.
have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
Is this a bucket?
Step in here for a moment.
It's like that meme where someone like looking at a butterfly and they say it's the wrong thing. She's like, is this a bucket? Oh, fading out. Is this a game show?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
Okay.
Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket.
In this case,
Okay,
I
let's
can't
begin.
use the bucket to get to that area.
Item 1. Is this a bucket?
Yes.
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Okay.
Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
But it can still perform the function of a bucket. So what do you mean?
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
I'm determined. One of these is going to be a bucket eventually.
Correct.
Yes.
This is a bucket.
I figured they're getting you ready to...
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Yes!
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor.
I thought
it's
you
an
were gonna...
enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
I thought you were gonna trick me somehow. Because the first two, they looked pretty... Oh.
Is this a bucket?
This one's gonna be a bucket.
Correct. This is a bucket.
I called it.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
No?
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
What? I'm waiting for the floor to drop out under me.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
What's it gonna be? Oh?
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
No, I was just messing with you.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out.
Good, this is the effect I hope to have on people.
I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with.
I want to screw
I'm afraid
this.
the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely.
No!
Okay, here we go.
No! He took my bucket.
What happened? Is everything gone?
Everything was actually a bucket.
Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me.
You are the bucket.
I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets.
Aww,
yes,
but
I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game.
Put the buckets back.
Tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that.
Okay.
Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Most excellent. My brain is a bucket. It holds knowledge. Okay, gotta find the next input.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
We gotta check every computer to find the input computer. I can't find it. I can't find
The good
Bucket,
old
comfort
bucket.
me.
Just Stanley and the bucket.
Bucket,
off
comfort
on
me, I'm
another
confused.
thrilling adventure together.
Oh, I don't know where the third
Stanley
input's going to
clutched the
be.
bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I don't know which way to go. So hang on. I'm going to look this up because I don't want to have wasted runs. And then have to come back for this later. Okay. Third input Stanley Parable. Okay. Alright, we're gonna scroll down very... Oh, there's a special ending. Okay. I figured. I just need a list. Okay, the boss's secretary is the third one, so we need to go upstairs. What else can I try to do after I get to the boss's office? Like, is there anything else I can do? Maybe I should have gone downstairs in that one round after all. Oh, I don't like the sounds of that room. I loved that room. I hate the sounds.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Okay. Should be this one. Yes. Okay, 2 more. Let's go up. I want to see if this does anything now. Because the last time I tried this, we were just kind of... Is the narrator singing in the background? Hang on. I think he is. Yeah, either that takes an inordinate amount of time, or...
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover
I'm
not
not
an
listening to
indication
this
of
whole
any
thing
human
again.
life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the
Yes.
bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most
Bucket knows.
logical explanation.
I mean, I'm honestly chill with just going to the bird's ending again. Or, hang on. Let's see the escape ending. But this time, I'm gonna let Stanley get crushed to death. You didn't hear that, Bucket. You heard nothing. Bucket, you heard nothing! Thought we understand each other. If you guys don't want to know what happened...
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
If this light is on, call a number immediately. Ah, there's an emergency going on. Wonderful.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Grand. Can't wait to see it.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Nope.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Although I do like that the narrator points out the fact that we can still go back, because usually we're so used to the doors closing behind us that we might not think that we can go back once we try it. Like, oftentimes we don't get a chance to chicken out. Bong. Oh. Come on. Go on. Crush us. Smash. Smash.
As the machine whirred into motion
For a moment, I
and
was
Stanley and the
wondering where the
bucket
narrator
inched
went.
closer
I was
to
so
their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
Don't say that.
To be
Bucket is
sure,
there for me.
it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere.
I'm kicking myself, and soon
Farewell,
I'm gonna kick the
Stanley.
bucket.
Farewell, Stanley,
Drop me.
cried the narrator,
Drop
as
me down.
Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Oh dear. There we go.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent
Oh,
bucket.
I
It's true that
vaguely
all
remember
buckets
this.
are radiant in their own way, But
Okay.
this one stood above the rest.
I
It
feel like
was
I've
a
gotten this
glorious
before.
bucket to behold.
I think I've gotten this one before because I remember this. I'm just gonna quickly locate the exit. Get out.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his... No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Come on. Oh, yeah. Ah.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Dang. I don't remember that happening. I think last time maybe I didn't get that specific bucket. Okay. Employee 434 is our next stop.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
What, do you want me to go back and check?
No, the orders were still missing. For now.
Okay, we checked. Let's do the insanity one with the bucket. Drive-by bucket.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley
To our
just
deaths.
smiled. Anywhere they went together would be... Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Glad to have you on board, narrator. Time to go see if we're gonna die. I'm also gonna do the broom closet thing. You know what? Let's do it.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it?
Oh wait, no.
The broom closet. It wants the bucket.
You
You
can't
can
have the
feel that,
bucket.
can't you? The aura. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I'm gonna do that without the bucket because I want to see what happens there. Because I remember that the narrator got really ticked at me for just staying in the broom closet.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Wait.
And then,
No
something
mention of the
occurred
bucket
to
yet.
Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
No
He looked
mention.
down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all.
Good. That's
That's
probably
strange, Stanley
implication
thought.
that you're
Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort.
It's a normal
And
bucket
that's
now.
when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps.
What?
How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience
Where's my
without
bucket?
the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket.
Where is my bucket?
Now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
The bucket
Now
is
he
missing.
felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Where is it? It was over here. I dropped
Stanley,
it.
it's me.
I don't know how.
The bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next.
I don't
None of
see
them were
her.
his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
Okay, this is
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The
inside.
real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony. and blacked out.
Oh.
This is the story
Realizing
of a
that it
woman
was
named
the
Mariella.
bucket was like imaginary. Why did I pronounce it like that?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular
is a
day,
bucket.
her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was.
The lack of the bucket.
This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place.
Whoops.
How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Language narrator? Okay. What? Okay, I knew this was called the heaven ending. I didn't know what... They're all buttons. This is seriously disturbing, actually. Do I have to press every single one of these? I can't see my cursor. I don't know when I'm pressing a button. There's literally a spook chorus in the background, chanting buttons. What happens when I press them all? Wait. They're turning back on. I can't press them all. This is not heaven. This is a nightmare. There's no way to ever fulfill the completionist desire to press every single button. They won't even let me press them all and then they reset. They just reset after a predetermined amount of time. This is cruel. Do I just have to restart the game at this point? Because I don't like this. Nope. Screw it. I'm getting out. We outie. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go and try to...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I have elected... we're not gonna take the bucket with this time because I want to hunt around in the cargo bay to see if I can figure out how to get to that Stanley. And if I can't get to it... Is that one not gonna close? If I can't get to it, then I'm just gonna go ahead and go to the red
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Horrifying. The completionist can never be satisfied in a world where...
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Do I need a key card? Because this door was uniquely made with a key card on it. I'm not seeing any. I'm trying really hard to jump. It won't work. Oh. Ha-ha! And then I get to plunge to my death.
You're getting close now, Stanley.
I almost just
You've
walked
nearly
off.
gotten all of the Figler Anlarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then.
That'll be wonderful.
Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anlarines. None of us can.
Figler Anlarines. Is there anything over here to look at? Because I see an open vent. What's down here? Let's find out. Oh? What is this? We going on a crusade?
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun.
Was
So far off the beaten path that it seemed.
You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be.
You
all
had
the
me going
back and
for a
forth
moment.
between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you
Those are
must
always- that's
absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling.
Not
It must
unless
be
we got
so
some good
simple to be
foreshadowing
you.
for it.
Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what
Don't
you've
be
done to me.
sad.
This is all your fault.
Oh. Alright, well, with... Back! Not today, Satan! Not today. You shall not have me. Why did it have to save that piece of progress? I don't want to go back to that. God. Okay. You know what? We're gonna stand safely out of this. We're gonna let the door close.
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time.
With the door safely closed behind us, I think that is a good place to stop. I actually have no idea how long I've been recording. Hang on. Wait. Yeah, I can... That was not what I was trying to do. I took a screenshot by accident. I could have sworn it was F12, but either way, I will see all of you next time. As always, we'll have our 7-minute sermon afterwards, God's Word in 7 minutes or less. I invite you to stick around for that. I encourage you to. I in no capacity attempt to force you. And if you don't stick around, then this is where I sign off. Have a wonderful, wonderful day or night or whatever it is. Subscribe if you would like to see more of this content. And always remember that you are treasured. Bye-bye! Hello, hello. Thank you so much for sticking around for our 7-minute sermon, God's Word in 7 minutes or less. And in today's episode, we got the heaven ending, and it seemed more like a nightmare to me. Thinking on that atrocity of an afterlife, I was reminded of how many people don't actually understand how to get into heaven. It seems strange considering how widespread a general knowledge of the gospel is, but many of the people I've met or seen who claim an understanding of how heaven and hell work are actually pretty far off the mark. Many of the people you ask about their afterlife will tell you that they believe they're going to heaven because they're good people. If this is you, I have a few questions to ask. Have you ever lied? And what do we call someone who lies? Have you ever had anger towards somebody? Well, you may not have taken this person's life, but Jesus said that having anger in your heart towards someone is committing murder in your heart. Would a liar and a murderer be called a good person? The fact is, our works alone are not enough to get us into heaven. We all make mistakes, and knowing this, God gave us a way to reach heaven without having to be perfect. He sent his son Jesus, who lived without sinning, as in disobeying God even once, and he paid the price of our sin. He took our sentence by dying on the cross. It's like him paying off an insurmountable debt that would have left us in poverty for all of time. This is God's gift. And to receive it, to be saved from sin and take the route of eternal life instead, all you have to do is ask. Prayer is terrifying to some people, especially those who've heard some really fancy prayers that they can't top, or who've been running from God for a long time. But it doesn't need to sound pretty, and no matter where you're at, He wants to hear from you. It just needs to be sincere. Acknowledge you've made mistakes. Recognize Jesus as the Son of God who died to take your sentence, and ask Him to come into your life. Once you've done that, congrats, you're saved. Walk in obedience with God. You're saved through faith, and it's hardly considered faith if you use Him as a get-out-of-jail-free card, then push Him out of your life. He won't be perfect. It's not what He wants from you. He wants your heart, not a flawless version of you that doesn't exist. And that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, do all the nice things. I always forget what to do with this, but if the next episode of the Stanley Parable is out, that should appear on screen very soon. Always remember that you are treasured. Bye-bye!